The book, Remember Who You Are, is about the author meeting and experiencing a being named Daniel who describes himself as a messenger from the infinite here to reflect the truth of who we are.
When Daniel appeared, there was this overwhelming presence, and you could feel this when Daniel would teach through her, of compassion and patience and love that just emanated. For me, I had been a spiritual seeker my entire life. I mean, really, when I was young, I was trying to make sense of who am I, why am I here, what's my purpose, and I was reading mythology and theology and trying to make sense, and nothing really made sense to me, or I didn't feel like I was getting the answers that I wanted to those questions. I was so blown away because I felt like, oh, I'm finally getting the answers to those questions. I'm getting that big picture metaphysical cosmology. But the thing about Daniel is, even though he was always offering that information, he was always reminding us to go within. That the more we can access our own highest self, our own spirit, that's where all the answers lie. That, to me, is so symbolic too of a true teacher. It wasn't about creating a dogma of following. It was about this reminder of remember who you are, and here's how you do it.
This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
There's a show on New Reality TV that just celebrated its 200th episode. 200th. Not its 10th, not its 50th, its 200th. I mean, you gotta think it doesn't happen by accident, right? Obviously that happens because the audience keeps coming back. And when I looked at why, well, it became pretty obvious pretty fast. The host, Carl Gruber, calls World Awakenings the fast track to enlightenment. That phrase is doing exactly what it's supposed to. Because what most people on the spiritual path quietly feel, but rarely say out loud, is, I don't want to spend 20 years meditating in a cave to figure this out. I want access to the people who have already done the work, who've already been through this transformation, who can hand me something real and useful right now. Now that's Carl's entire mission. He's a law of attraction life coach and a student of A Course in Miracles. He spent 200 episodes tracking down the best spiritual and metaphysical teachers on the planet and asking them the questions you'd ask if you had the chance. The range here is genuinely breathtaking. The science of miracles, what Yeshua says when channeled directly, how a woman healed herself from cancer naturally, what happens when the dying transition, med beds and Tesla energy, how love literally does not know death. 2 seasons, 60 plus episodes on the platform, all of it pointed at the same question. Why is the world waking up right now? And how do you make sure that you are part of it? World Awakenings with Carl Gruber. 200 episodes of the fastest path to enlightenment you're going to find anywhere. Streaming free right now on newrealitytv.com, or you can download the app on Roku and Fire TV. Watch it on your television set in the comfort of your own home for free. 200 episodes in, and he is just getting started.
It's happening.
It's in the air.
The time is now.
We're all waking up.
We're waking up.
We're all waking up.
It's all shifting.
New vibrations.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me.
It's all of us.
Together.
A new time.
A new day.
A new energy.
A new energy.
A new reality.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
NewRealityTV.com.
Hey, welcome friends to yet another mind-expanding and exploration into all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening that will open your heart to all things beyond our 3D world of form. This is World Awakenings, a fast track to enlightenment. I'm your host, Carl Gruber. Now, of course, you can always watch this show on YouTube, but it is now also on the brand new TV network, New Reality TV. And you can also listen to it anywhere in the world on Apple Podcasts, so check it out. All right, let's check in with our guest. Our featured guest here on episode number 254 is Andi Saucerman, the founder of Universoul Foundations. Through Universoul Foundations, her mission is simple: to nurture peace, expand consciousness, and empower others to step into their natural leadership, the kind that flows from authenticity, service, and soul. Now, her work is grounded in over 25 years of experience in transformative education and the deep knowing that our true power emerges when we pause, listen inward, and align with spirit. And in a world of cell phones, that doesn't happen very often. She is also the publisher of Remember Who You Are, a spiritual adventure and an ancient whisper written by Karen Alexander, and of books that invite readers into the mysteries of existence, the beauty of their divine nature, and the freedom of living from soul. What a beautiful picture that is. For 15 years, Andi has served at the Hoffman Institute as a teacher, coach, and curriculum designer, where she helps students release the grip of the negative patterns and reconnect with their innate wisdom. So with that, Andi, hey, you made it to World Awakenings. Yay.
Thank you, Carl. It's great to be here with you today.
Wow, I'll tell you what, everything that you do and are involved in sounds pretty important for the world. The world needs what you're doing, I'll say that.
Thank you. We do. I think anybody who is really curious about why we're here, or anybody who's suffering or in pain, I think there are so many wonderful things to support them in their journey. And I've really been honored to be a part of that with many people.
Yeah. Well, okay, Andi, we have much to talk about, but before we dive into this book, Remember Who You Are by Karen Alexander, tell us about how your life led you to create Universoul, which is spelled at the end Soul Foundations, and what exactly is Universoul Foundations?
So what led me to create it is that for 30 years plus, I have been involved in these teachings from a spiritual teacher named Daniel that you'll learn about in Remember Who You Are. And after, I should say, I just had this intuitive knowing a few years ago that it was really time to bring this work forward into the world. And so I left my position and created Universoul Foundations as a way to provide these teachings to help people remember who they are, to really reconnect with their divine essence. And all of this is through these amazing teachers. And Karen's books, Remember Who You Are and An Ancient Whisper, I would consider the gateway books to these teachings. And so Daniel's teachings have ranged everywhere from life, death, and the in-between, the sacred school of earth, how to create the life you want, UFOs, I mean, just like anything that you can imagine that we want to understand. He really provides this metaphysical cosmology, this understanding of who we are, why we're here, and what our purpose is on earth. And I was like, it's time. I've got all this incredible teaching that was sitting on my bookcase, and it needs to get out into the world. And so that was the inspiration for doing it.
Well, and before we get more into Daniel, we're definitely going to have a lot to talk about. One more question about you. Your life, for 15 years, you've served as a teacher, coach, and trainer at Hoffman Institute, where you play a role in managing programs, designing curriculum. Can you tell us about the Hoffman Institute and what it does?
Yes. Oh, so I did the Hoffman process in 2002, and it was really transformative. And it's basically a week-long program where you really, well, I would say, not only are you clearing out these negative patterns that you learn, what Daniel calls social mind, basically, but these negative patterns that you learn, um, I would say the essence of the work at the Hoffman Institute is about people connecting with their authentic being, and really an opportunity for people to dive deep into compassion and forgiveness, which we truly need in the world. And but also just once we clear away what no longer applies, it's about a new way of being in the world. And so it's a very immersive 7 days on site, beautiful location, amazing team of teachers, and lovely food. You're well taken care of and nourished while you're taking this deep dive. And it's quite an emotional journey. It's really the journey from the head to the heart. And I was really honored to work there for 15 years. And not only as a teacher and coach, but eventually to oversee the curriculum, the design of the process and weekend programs and so on. So it
Where,
was,
where is it based?
well, it's based in San Rafael, California, but it's an international organization.
Okay.
Hoffman Institute's been around for over 50 years. And they have, again, being international, they have different offshoots, but all that work, it's based on this teaching that Bob Hoffman brought forward about negative love patterns, and also about what he calls the human quadrinity. So
Hmm.
if it's incredibly healing and transformative work, and I'm really honored that I got to be a part of that for so long.
Well, it sounds like we could probably do an entire show just on that stuff. But we do have to move on and find out about Daniel. Now, I did say to you before we started recording here that it's probably the only time I've ever had the publisher on to promote a book rather than the author. And Karen Alexander, who is the author of Remember Who You Are, is very private. Now, this Karen, the book "Remember Who You Are" is about the author meeting and experiencing a being named Daniel, who describes himself as a spirit of beyond, from a spirit from beyond the beyond, and mirror with a voice, a messenger from the infinite, here to reflect the truth of who we are. Now, honestly, the book, what I've read so far, reads like a novel, yet evidently your Daniel is a reality, because you've spent years and years of Daniel's teaching, listening and transcribing them, right?
Correct. Correct. Just to give you a little background, so Daniel came to Karen during a meditation at a time when she was really struggling in her own life. And what's interesting about Karen is that she comes from more of an academic research type background, and she had no interest in anything like angels or guides or anything New Age related. But when Daniel appeared, there was this overwhelming, I just remember her talking about it, just this overwhelming presence. And you could feel this when Daniel would teach through her, of compassion and patience and love that just emanated. And so after she listened to Daniel for a while, she decided it was worth sharing, because his message is truly about human beings connecting with their birthright, connecting with their soul, and remembering who they are. And so that was how Daniel first came to Karen. And then she and a friend started inviting people to come ask questions and to listen to Daniel teach. And I was in part of that early group. And for me, I had been a spiritual seeker my entire life. I mean, really, when I was young, I was trying to make sense of who am I, why am I here, what's my purpose, and I was reading mythology and theology and trying to make sense, and nothing really made sense to me, or I didn't feel like I was getting the answers that I wanted to those questions. And so a friend of mine invited me to the gathering, and I was so blown away because I felt like, oh, I'm finally getting the answers to those questions. I'm getting that big picture metaphysical cosmology. But the thing about Daniel is, even though he was always offering that information, he was always reminding us to go within. That the more we can access our own highest self, our own spirit, that's where all the answers lie. And so that to me is so symbolic too of a true teacher. It wasn't about creating a dogma of following. It was about this reminder of remember who you are and here's how you do it.
So Karen Alexander is actually a channel, and she holds sessions where Daniel speaks through her,
He did.
Is she a trance channel or a conscious channel?
You know, I'm just the only way that I can say is that the way Karen described it is that she provided the energetic space for Daniel to come through. And so she could hear Daniel speak and sometimes, answer a question for, or say something that he would then share with the group. So I don't know how, I mean, that to me, that's just how she defined it.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't really like the word channeling. For her, it was just, I'm providing the space for this being to talk through, but that's the term we use now. So.
I have had numerous channels here, and never have I met an entity or being that has come through a human being to talk that doesn't talk about anything other than love and remembering our divine being, and that we're connected to all. They all do. I mean, they all come in different voices and different dimensions, but yet they all have the same message of love and unity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great. So, well, speaking of that, and you kind of mentioned this, Daniel's mission is clear to bring us back to awareness of who we really are so that we can live fully and consciously in alignment with our soul's purpose. But, isn't that the human experience? So we come here in a veil of forgetfulness, and the goal of by the time you get to the end of your current incarnation in a body is to start remembering and forgiving, and so that you never have to come back again and you can go home.
Well, if it were that easy.
Okay.
Daniel, it's, oh gosh, where do I start? A big part of what has happened to us is we have this spiritual amnesia. And we became lost from the unity millions of years ago. And in that lostness, we acquire density and we're not able to return home back to upper heaven, which is where we're from. And so our sister from upper heaven, Gaia, created this beautiful earth. She came along with her lover and created this beautiful place for us to do this work of reducing density out of our hearts, and so that we could reconnect with upper heaven. And it's also so our souls are going through their own evolutionary process. And so each lifetime there is a purpose. So, it's like you were created on purpose. Everyone was created on purpose with a purpose. And that purpose is to further the evolution of your soul's growth. And so there are, in the in-between, before we take our next body, our next lifetime, there are decisions that are made on, okay, what is the learning that the soul needs to acquire in this particular lifetime? And so we are given this body. We're also part of a soul community of purpose, not place. It's woven into our being. our characteristics, the family that we're born into, all of that is to support us in our learning. But what happens is, so, here we are, this venturing aspect of the soul coming into the lifetime. We completely forget that we have a purpose, that we're here to learn on behalf of our soul. And instead, so that's the spiritual amnesia that I'm talking about. We forget that we have certain learnings that we're here to acquire during the lifetime, to bring back to the soul so that it can do what it needs to do in the in-between, and then another lifetime is created after that to continue this growth and evolution for us. So it's not just live the lifetime and it ends and we're done. This is an evolution that we continually go through many lifetimes.
Your message is absolutely beautiful because, most of us do go through our 3D density of human form and chaos and trauma and sickness and injuries and, crazy stuff. But it's nice to know that there are beings like Daniel and others out there who are bringing this beautiful message. And here we are in 2026, and we know that humanity is finally starting to rise to, well, many of my guests have said we're on the verge of transitioning into the 5D. And that sounds beautiful to me. We sure need it.
Yeah, Daniel has talked about like that, and he mentions this in Remember Who You Are in the book, is that there's a second chance that's been available for humanity. And in his teachings that we had, he talked about this time as a collision of dimensions that we're going through. And that there is one of the 6 soul communities is what's called the healing community. And so a number of beings that, belong, you could probably think of people in your life that are healers that belong to that community. And they're here to help humanity prepare to awaken by helping healing human hearts. And so, what we're seeing right now is this collapse. We're realizing that the old religious and societal structures are no longer working. And it's really exciting to me to see. It's like there's this shift that we're witnessing. I mean, really, what an exciting time to be alive and to be a part of this shift of remembering our true nature. And I think the more people are awakening, like you're talking about, I think the more we're realizing how we are connected, how we all belong to this really divine matrix of souls, that we are all one.
If you watch the national media, which I don't because I don't even have a television, but I do know what's going on. You would think the world is on the verge of total, complete collapse and elimination from even existence. Mm-hmm. But yet, messages like this give us hope, and we do know that there is more light than there's ever been before. That's why shows like this and many other shows exist. So I really appreciate what Daniel does. And, I was going to ask this, but you've kind of cleared this up. I mean, there's how is what Daniel says, his message, any different than, say, Seth or Abraham or Bashar? But we already said they all bring nothing but light, love, truth, and hope for humanity.
They do. I think the thing that I experience, and I have to admit, I'm not as familiar with the teachings of like Bashar, and I've heard some Abraham. One of the things that I really have loved about what Daniel's provided is, again, this cosmology. It's not like just you hear the word soul. He really gives an understanding of the soul. I feel like he has given us a spiritual history of who we are as humanity, this understanding about our lifetimes, this understanding that we are surrounded at all times by this incredible soul that sings to us and calls to us and nurture us. It's just that we become separate from it. And so, again, one of the things that Daniel always reminds us to do is go back within. Like, what if my soul is singing and calling to me all this time? What's in the way of that? And so, again, a big part of Daniel's teachings have to do with clearing away the density in your heart and also dismantling the social mind that has been created that separates us from this incredible love that is present to us at all times. And so it's this daily reminder. It's a very active spirituality that he brings into these teachings. It is just this going back, continually remembering, continually accessing, moving as much as I can into my heart, and doing that work.
Well, not only the uniqueness of Karen Alexander, who is the author of the book and the channel for Daniel, there's, as far as I can tell, there's no videos of her channeling him, but are there audio tapes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, granted, you have to remember we started 30 years ago. I have so many cassette tapes so we have recorded. I think we have one video of Daniel, because back then that wasn't really an option. It was mainly just audio through cassette. So yeah, we have all these audio recordings that I've been meticulously transcribing and eventually compiling into books.
Are they available? Are the audios available for listening anywhere or not yet?
Not yet, not at this time.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, author Karen Alexander's encounter with Daniel in her book, Remember Who You Are, her encounter, she's on an airplane and a little boy, age 7, sits down next to her. Turns out to be Daniel. Honestly, it reads what happened after that. It reads almost like an acid trip or a major hallucination, but it wasn't. It wasn't. It was a real experience for Karen, right?
Well, Karen, when she wrote the book, she was, and Daniel, I mean, again, this was part of her soul contract, was a way to bring these teachings into a form that people could engage with. And so when she was writing the book, she was in a trance state for like 8 to 12 hours a day. And he was taking her on these adventures, and she would be typing away. So that's how the book was written. And it's just, a lot of people have called it an emotional roller coaster. It's like you read a chapter and you're like, oh my God, this can't be topped. And then the next chapter happens, and the next chapter happens. There is so much information. But I think one of the reasons the book has resonated with so many people is because of the state it was written in. And it really moves you, bypasses your intellect, and it just really takes you on this emotional journey. And it's very encapsulating, like invigorating. Some people have told me that they just read it in a day because they just can't stop reading it. So.
Well, unfortunately, I haven't only had a chance to really get a taste of the book, and you said if I keep reading, it's going to get even wilder. The ride is wild with Daniel. Wow. Well, from what I read, Karen Alexander, she had an extraordinary expanded awareness of what was visible in this world, even as a youngster, right?
Yes.
Which is interesting because you told me she's just kind of a straightforward, logical type of person.
She is. She comes from that academic background, but even so, she always had a deep connection, like with plants and just this sense of other realms that existed. But that was for her journey. As far as bringing in another being, that was another story for her. And I love that because Karen was quite discerning, when Daniel first came to call, so to speak.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I like that she chose that path. Now, Daniel's message is that we need to remember who we really are, that the real us is a divine self at one with all that is. Mm-hmm. So is Daniel, I mean, should we classify him? Is he an angel? Is he the Holy Spirit? I mean, does it matter? Do we need to do that?
I don't think we need to classify Daniel, but I will say Daniel felt higher dimensional to me because of the bigger picture that Daniel would present that I had never heard before. And but the thing about Daniel is anytime we would ask him, "Who are you?" he would say, "That really doesn't matter. What's most important is for you to remember who you are, and I'm here to help you do that." But he's, the other thing about Daniel, when we would listen to him, not only, as I mentioned, Karen experienced earlier, the compassion, the presence, but there was always humor, a lightness of being that we experienced with Daniel. Always an invitation and an offering. And he never wanted to have us create any kind of Church of Daniel or any kind of dogma. It was like, this is everybody has their own individual journey, but here, let me clear up some of the distortions so that you can remember more and more of who you are. So.
That's an interesting aspect too. Almost all of the channels that I've had a chance to meet on this show, they all have some form of a sense of humor, and they like to kind of play with us humans. I mean, even Daniel in the book says it's important to play.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's that reminder about this lightness of being. And, one of the things that he reminds us is that within every human being exists a divine child. And that divine child is playful and so connected. It connects us between our soul and who we are in our heart. And so, yeah, he's always this reminder of play while you can. He said, whenever you lose, I can't remember verbatim what he said. I just read this again the other night, but he said, whenever we lose humor, you can tell, or this lightness, you can tell spirit's missing. Like there's this lightness of being that is present when spirit is there. And, so many years, I remember, I mean, I grew up in the Catholic Church, and it was like all seriousness and, heaviness. And instead it's like, actually, where is spirit when it's so dense? It's really not, it wasn't present for me. So when we can access and tap into that child within, there's humor, laughter, a lot of times spirit is present.
Being even though I'm 9 million years old, I still have the mentality of like a 9-year-old because I'm a wild and crazy bachelor who lives with a 16-pound cat. And if my cat Maya could tell people the silly, crazy stuff I do here in the apartment, they say, "Are you wacko?" But yeah, but the thing is, I still maintain that playful attitude.
Yeah.
And not only is it a way of entertaining myself because I like myself, but I do see that people enjoy it when I'm that way too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's power in laughter and play, definitely.
Well, we were talking to Andi Saucerman, the publisher of Remember Who You Are by Karen Alexander, which is about this amazing being of light named Daniel. So why is this more important than ever for humanity right here, right now, in this time on Earth, to pay attention to this message from Daniel?
Well, figure out where to start. That's such a good question. I think there are a lot of people who are living in fear and a lot of people who are scared and depressed and anxious with what's going on in the world. And I think this message is really powerful for them because it reminds us of not only how loved we are, but how much power we have in our own lives. And it also, one of the things that Daniel talks about what's impacting humanity right now, and this is one of the really powerful messages in the book, is that he talks about the social mind. And the social mind, it's what many of us think that this is who I am. It's basically an implant that was created by outside influences, usually authority figures. So, you think about when we're born as a child, if anybody's around a child, you just witness so much presence. They're just there and they can be crying one minute and then laughing the next, and they're very fluid with their emotions. And then unfortunately, we start seeing that diminish more and more. And usually that's because that's when the social mind comes into being. And so parents, relatives, teachers, societal figures, our cultural influences, we start getting these messages about who we are, who other people are, and about the world around us. And what that does is it starts filling a person with judgments, comparisons, opinions, and fear. And so I want to remind people this is not a creation of spirit, it is learned. And basically, when we are living in our social mind, when we're thinking that this is who I am, this is the totality of my being, that moves us into being in a more defensive posture, because then I have to defend my attributes or defend my way of being. And it can really cause conflict amongst us. It can create loneliness, violence, because social minds compete for energy. So that's a big part of Daniel's message, is to say, you don't even realize you have this social mind. You think that that is who you are. And that is what's blocking you from the connection with spirit. And so a lot of the book that you'll encounter the more you read is Karen actually seeing firsthand her own social mind. And all those, it's that self-talk that we have in our head. Again, any messages, judgments that we have. And it really is what creates separation. And so that is really a big part of what's going on in the world, is that it's these social minds competing for energy. So.
I think you really nailed it with a social mind, because as we all know, we're literally programmed by the powers that be in telling us who we should be. And our parents went through the same thing when they were growing up, and then they continue trying to put us in a box as a child. Well, no, this is who you should be. You should be a lawyer, and you should be nice, and all this stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of programming which makes you wonder, why are the powers of being wanting us to do that? But that's for another whole show right there.
Yeah.
But I have to ask about you, Andy. Your life too has been profoundly affected by the teachings of Daniel. How so? How has your life changed?
Wow. For me, when I started having the answers to those questions, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? I felt so much fall away. It's like, oh, there's so much extraneous stuff I don't need to think about or to worry about. So it helped me fine tune my own purpose in life, what I'm here to do. And, my bio that you read earlier is really a reflection of that knowing how I'm here to support others. But also for me, it made my spirituality more active. Because as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a church. It was a very passive spirituality. You go to church on Sunday, and that was it. And one of the things that Daniel's teachings did was give me like this understanding of, like it's a moment by moment choice that I have to either continue to reinforce the social mind or to move into natural mind or my heart, and to really allow spirit to move through me. And that just opened things up to me so much more as a result. And just understanding too, being on this beautiful planet, Gaia, this appreciation for nature, this recognition that everything that is natural and of nature was created for my learning. So I can sit out on in my backyard, and I can see a reflection of myself in a bird or a tree. And for me, it's just, I've simplified my life so much as a result, and just really honor my own inner journey. And I really, part of this is this practice of tuning into my own subtle energies, my own abilities, my intuition. And just really honoring that, because it might not look like what it should be from the outside world, but this path that I'm on has really been driven by spirit. And so my life has been one of deep surrender and trust as a result.
And as your life was affected beautifully in this manner, I would imagine that those around you, you also saw them change and become more loving, because as we give, we also receive back. And so, there's a healing. There's the old line, heal yourself and the world is healed with you.
Yes, I completely agree. And I mean, I witnessed that too in my work as a Hoffman teacher, is my students would be going back home into their families and their relationships. And you just shift that trajectory just one bit and you open your heart and you allow more. And every time we open our heart is basically moving, spirit moving through us into the world. It does impact those around us. It impacts not only ourselves, but also our families, our friends. So that's why anytime someone does this work of dismantling social mind, anytime somebody does this work of opening their heart, not only are they healing those around them, but it's part of it. It's really an act of planetary stewardship because we're also helping the planet as well. So.
Yeah, what a beautiful perspective. I love this. So, another question here. Not that I'm an expert on organized religion. Is there any connection between Daniel that we're talking about here and the Daniel of the Old Testament?
No, there is not. In fact, as you'll get more into the book, Daniel will talk more about religion, and he's how do I say, pretty forthcoming with what he states about it. Basically, has manipulated humanity in a bid for power by keeping people looking outside of themselves for salvation, using fear and judgment and the threat of punishment to control behavior. So it's a great way to continue to acquire power versus teaching people how to do the work of going within. So it nurtures that passive spirituality that I mentioned earlier. So.
You are so right. I mean, most of the world lives in fear, in thoughts of separation and judgment. And many times, even in my own life, although I live a pretty peaceful life, I just look at, what was I thinking when I decided to come in a human body? Holy mackerel, what is going on? And yet, this is why we come here to evolve back to the light and the truth. But yeah, unfortunately, the world lives in a victim mentality. But again, I keep coming back to it. That's why people like you exist, and Karen and our friend Daniel coming in and helping us. Well, all right, again, just a reminder, we're talking to Andi Saucerman, the publisher of Remember Who You Are, among being a counselor and teacher herself. Now, I am a student of A Course in Miracles, the modern non-dualistic spiritual guide that teaches that we are actually the Holy Son of God who fell asleep in a dream of separation, dreaming we are a body. And it seems to me that all fits in pretty well with the teachings of Daniel, right?
It does, because the way Daniel described it is with this separation that happened, he basically was calling it like this chunk of souls, these fragments of light separated from God. And so we all are an aspect of God, and in our lostness, we acquired that density and that separation. And so our sisters and brothers from upper heaven were like, what can we do to bring them back? And so that's why the earth was created. That's why there's a curriculum on the earth to help support us in our learning. That's why we have numerous lifetimes, because it's an opportunity for us to lessen our density and to remember who we are and why we're here. So, yeah.
Yeah, we are really in an interesting time on Mother Earth right now, in that, we've spent most of our time in darkness and forgetfulness and dominated by the powers that be, and light is coming at last. So we really are fortunate to be in this place at this time. So thank you for Daniel and everybody else. I think one of the things that could happen, there are so many channels now, it's almost, I could imagine somebody going to YouTube. Oh, great, another channel. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, what's next? Oh, there's a movie, you know, with killing in it and all that. But, you know, hopefully that doesn't happen, that people just become so used to it.
Yeah, I hope people are able to use their discernment
Right.
first, because Daniel and even Ram Dass said this, that just because a being doesn't have a body doesn't mean that they're wise. And so to use your discernment when listening. But also, I think what's really important for us is to look at if something is upward pulling, meaning it's opening my heart, if it helps me connect to more of who I am, then to really move more and more towards that and be mindful of those things that would be considered more downward pulling energy, that maybe I might acquire more density, keep me closed off, keep me in fear. And again, making this conscious choice to move more and more towards what is upward pulling, what is heart opening, what is going to connect me more with spirit and with this beautiful planet and with others.
Yeah, boy, that's well said too. Because if you see a message like from Daniel or Bashar or Abraham, whatever, or Seth, if it does make you feel better and pull you to a higher place, yeah, then you're in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting in that. Well, are there any more books going to come forth from Daniel via Karen Alexander? I think I saw at the beginning it says book 1, and that book was originally published, what, 30 years ago?
That book was, yes, it was published 30 years ago. And Remember Who You Are is actually the updated version of it. Karen and I made updates to it when we published it. But she also has a second book in the Adventures with Daniel series called An Ancient Whisper, which is pretty phenomenal in and of itself. You'll learn more about the life and birth and death experience and more about Jesus's message. It's really a beautiful continuation. Right now, that's what we have, and what we've been working on, most importantly, are the transcriptions of the direct teachings from Daniel, the compilations, so that people can actually experience the teaching. So I do a very gentle editing process. And I think last count, we're close to 15 books that we're going to have on different topics that he teaches on. So.
Well, you have this website, Universoul's soulfoundations.com. I'll put that link in there, but it's Universe, SOUL, foundations.com. Can people access these transcripts?
Not yet. They're coming. I'm right now in the process. They're edited, and now they're going to be designed into books, working with my book designer. In the interim, what we have on our website is people can sign up for our weekly newsletter, which is actually, we call it Nourishment for the Soul, because I take some aspect of Daniel's teaching. And so once a week, you just get this beautiful teaching, or how can I incorporate this into my life? We also have free downloads that people can access. Once they read the book, Remember Who You Are, a lot of people want to learn more about density and social mind. And so we've got some free downloads. And then we also have a couple other teachings Daniel did on Follow Your Own Soul and Beloved, and another teaching called The True Meaning of the Light, which is quite beautiful. And we also have a couple e-courses based on teachings from Daniel. One is called The 9 Gateways. And it's all about laying the foundation. Like, if you're like, yeah, I really want to connect with my soul, how can I prepare myself for that? And then we have the next course after that, which is the 11 signposts. And it's really all these signposts Daniel talks about really deepening your connection with your own highest self. So we just keep adding more and more, and we announce what's coming through the newsletter, so people would be abreast of when the books are coming out.
Well, I'll tell you, I can't wait to read the rest of the book of Remember Who You Are by Karen Alexander. Like I said, I mean, I've only read 43 pages, and it's just been a wild ride, and you say it's going to get even wilder.
I can't wait to talk to you after, Carl. You'll have to to connect after you read it.
I will. Well, Andi Saucerman, thank you so much for being on World Awakenings today. I mean, I'm just blown away. It's the first time I have had a channel on here who's not really here, but really, Daniel got his message to us through you to us.
Yeah. I've listened to every teaching. I've transcribed every teaching. Yeah. So apparently in my soul contract, this is what I get to do. And I'm really honored to bring Daniel's message to the world. So.
Well, just to give a little spoiler at the beginning of the book, Karen Alexander's on a plane next to a little boy, and next finds herself dangling in midair outside of the plane above the clouds and just hanging out. So, okay, I won't say anymore. So anyway, Andi, thank you so much. It's been awesome having you on the show, and keep doing what you're doing, man. You're really helping Gaia and humanity.
Thank you, Carl, and thank you for what you're doing as well, bringing more and more people to all of us who are here to serve humanity. So thank you.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.